What's up, Periscope? This your boy, Pastor D. I'm coming to you this morning with kind of a serious topic this morning. Um, I want to share with everybody this morning. If you could do me a favor, if you joined in on this video, you can hear me. Just type and let me know you can hear me, and you can hear me good. I think this is vitally important. Some information. You see the topic: 7 mistakes I have made as a pastor. And let me kind of give you the preface, because I won't be long. Let me kind of give you the preface why I'm doing this. And it's because you see all kind of self-help books out today. Most folk focus on their success, and they share very little details about their failures. Because the truth be told, some people are not going to like this, but we're not trained to say, "Hey, we messed up." We only trained to share with people our successes, but as pastors, we make mistakes, and we make decisions that most people don't agree with, and sometimes, if we be honest, we miss God. And I know most people don't want to admit that, but it's been times that we miss God. And so I think it's important that I share with you all as I'm getting to come out with my next book. If you don't know, shameless plug, my first book is called iBelieve. It's a phenomenal book. I promise you, it will certainly bless your very, very life. But this next book is the 7 mistakes I've made as pastor. I'm going to kind of give you a hint to a few of them on this morning. And I'm just going to do part 1 just for a few moments, but share with you the first mistake I made was being sent and not being called. Being sent to a church and not being called by God. Came up in a ministry where I'm originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and moved to New Orleans, and met my wife now. At the time, she was my girlfriend, and Hurricane Katrina came, and we had to roll out. And I was in a shift and transition in my life, going from living just a raggedy life. But now, I was always in church. I was a church musician. I've literally traveled the world. I've been to France. I've been different places, teaching gospel music. I promise you, music is what I do. I do it in my sleep. Choir, shifting, transforming praise teams and choirs. I do that. But God was shifting me and calling me to something else. And accepted my call to preach. And Hurricane Katrina came, and so I said I didn't go back to Baton Rouge, wanted something different. So I got to Shreveport, joined the ministry there, and sometimes your gift can be intimidating to other people. And I was gifted. God bless me. I was able to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. But then this ministry became available. At that time, it was called Cathedral Free Spirit Baptist Church. And some of you would say, well, why are you sharing the name of the church? Well, when you get my next book, you'll know, because I believe in being transparent. So church came available, did not go the first time, but they called. And I really didn't want to pastor. I was just happy with preaching. Didn't want to pastor. And can you hear me better now? Somebody type yes if you can hear me better. Great. Well, being called to sent to this ministry, all because come out of traditional Baptist setting,
been called this ministry, so now I'm having to go to a church I really didn't want to go to, but I went out of obedience to the pastor at the church I was at. Didn't do no research, didn't do no history, and I think it's very, very important. One of the first principles is make sure you're led by God before you accept the position as pastor. Make sure that you are in direct communication with God. And that's even for some of you who even church plant. You plant your own church. Make sure you're led by God, because we are held accountable as pastors to the people that we lead. Making sure that you're together, making sure that you're whole, making sure that the church is not your first love, but God is. Because too often we fall in love with the church, but we're not in love with God. So make sure that you're hearing from God. Make sure you hear God's precisely speaking to you in reference to a particular ministry, because you're going to be held accountable for that ministry, because you're just the overseer. And whenever you begin to understand what an overseer is, an overseer doesn't own anything. That's why I tell pastors, be careful talking about my members, because you don't have any members. They all belong to God. God just entrusts you to lead his people and be a mouthpiece for him until he returns. That's all an overseer is. An overseer is an individual that is watching over the daily affairs of a particular thing until the owner returns. So you don't own the church. You don't own the people. And that's a conversation for another day, because I can even get into it with you and share with you. Maybe that's one of the problems with the church. We got too many members and we don't have enough disciples. Because how do you know? Yes. How do you know that you? Yes, great question. How do you know that you are called to a church? First of all, it'll be a conviction in your spirit. After you've done what I would consider your due diligence, it will be a conviction in your spirit to know that this is the place where God has called me. Understanding that they will have to do their process, whether it's voting or whatever, but God will always have the final authority. And then you know without a shadow of a doubt, because doors will open and things will happen in your very life that will shift and transform. So that's one of the reasons you'll know, first of all, conviction in your spirit, and then all the pieces will come together, because whatever God is in something, it will show up. And that's when you make sure you know that. Research the church history. Make sure you know all the ins and the outs. That's my second point. Point number one, make sure you're led by God before you accept the position as pastor, or if you start a ministry. Research the church history. Make sure you know all the ins and outs, because a lot of times we get young preachers. I consider myself still to be young, but some of these younger preachers, they're caught up into the fame. They're caught up into the quote unquote popularity of preaching, and they just want to be happy to get a church, and only to discover you get there, you kill the people and the people kill you, because you just want to be in the in crowd. And I tell you all the time, listen, I'm a little weary of folk, and I know this may be a little challenging for some of you to hear, and some may disagree, but I'm a little weary of folk talking about I was born to pastor. I knew this since I was a little bitty baby. Baby, this wasn't on my agenda. This wasn't on my agenda to pastor since I was a little kid. But I believe that God will send circumstances and situations in your life to call you to do his work and his will. So I think it's very, very important that you understand that you do the research, because it's important, because when you do the research, you know, first of all, that if this is a fit for you, because every ministry may not be a fit for you. And just because that ministry is not a fit for you does not mean that you're not called to pastor. It just may mean you're not called to pastor those people. And that's why I can't get away from my point number one, making sure you're led by God. Because in the process, you'll learn things, you'll know things. That hey, this ain't what I'm supposed to be doing. I ain't feeling this. Now I want to say something that you may say is kind of contradictory, but it's really not, because I do believe God will put you in certain situations to grow you and to groom you. And I do believe that. But even in that process, you should never go there to you should never. Great question. How do I know if I fit once I get there? You should know if you fit from if you're in a traditional Baptist church or just a traditional church period or church period. Let me take the traditional off of there. A church period that you've been called to. You'll know if you're fit from the first time you preach there, the first time you meet with the people. You'll know, because once you sit down in a room with those people and you have conversations with them, you know if this is fit, because most churches, the people that you meet with, those are the representatives of the people in the pew. Those are representatives of the people in the pew. So always know this, pastors. The people who are interviewing you, or the quote unquote the search committee, they have the ear of the people. So you need to know that they have the ear of the people. So once you sit in that room, you will know if you're fit. Now let me share with you where I went wrong in the process, because preaching to this church for about 6 months before, I remember, I never forget, I went there the Sunday before my birthday. I went there. It was the first Sunday in June. And I went there. No, I'm sorry, it was the second Sunday in June, and I went there, and but I preached there for 4 or 5 months, and I got excited about just being a pastor. I got excited about just being in charge. I got excited about being able to wear a suit and tie and hang out with the preachers and talk the lingo and go to lunch and all this kind of stuff, just to be in the in crowd, only to discover that from that first interview, I should have been like Forrest Gump. I should have run, because certain questions were asked in the interview process, and I gave them real answers, but I kind of knew then that this would not work. But sometimes in our own selfish desires, yes, I'm saying it, sometimes in our own selfish desires, we'll ignore what's right in front of us and won't pay attention to it. Now, listen, I'm sharing this with you because I didn't get this. This didn't show up and be revealed to me to years later. So knowing if you're fit, once you get into the interview process and you've done your research, you've done your due diligence, now you know, hey, this is a fit. Because I share with people all the time, you got to make sure that you're going to be at peace, that you're going to be happy at that particular church. So, and even for all of you pastors who are starting a church, who are planning to, listen, I have principles that I will share with you later on, but I need you to understand that even if you're going to plant a church, do your research, do the demographics in the area that you are. Knowing that if 90% of the people who live in your area are white, and you don't have the spirit of a multicultural ministry, then you might need to look somewhere else. because oftentimes we need to stop birthing struggles. We need to stop birthing things that we know won't last for the sake of just saying, I'm the pastor. So making sure you know all the ins and outs. Last point I want to make to you today, the last time I want to make you today is that being sent, that's going to be chapter 1 of the book, being sent and not called by God. That's one of the mistakes. And I gave you principle number 1. Make sure you're led by God before you accept a position, or if you plant a church. Research the church history. Make sure you know all of the ins and outs. But lastly, point I want to deal with is traditional and non-traditional. Traditional and non-traditional. Which is going to is leading up into. I'll come back to you maybe today, probably tomorrow, as I share with you point number 2. Not knowing, one of the mistakes I made was I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I was. That's mistake number 2. I didn't know who I was. Because we're dealing with traditional and non-traditional. Giving you a segue into point 2 next time we come together. Traditional and non-traditional. Making sure you know the climate of that church. If you know that, hey, I'm the jeans and the Timbs and the polo boots, or myself, the Young Fly and Save. Hey, shameless plug to my one of my products, Young Fly and Save. But if I know you didn't know that whether it's traditional or non-traditional, know the climate of the church. Know the climate of the church. If you young and you swagged out, you may not be a great fit. If they want you to wear a robe every Sunday and a 5-piece suit on Sundays, that may not be a fit for you. And so you must understand, know traditional, non-traditional, know the climate of the church. Hey, if you old school, hey, that's no big deal, no big deal. If you old school preacher, and you believe that the pastor, has a uniform, which is I think is a bit ridiculous, but that's my point. And this is my broadcast. All right. But hey, then going to non-traditional setting where people wear jeans and shorts, that might not be the place for you. Okay. And the worst thing you could do, as I'm getting ready to close, old Baptist preacher, you got 3 closes. Close number 1. First thing you need to understand is don't conform to something for the sake of having a title. That's a good tweet moment. Don't conform to a situation for the sake of having a title. Because oftentimes people will conform to a situation just to say, I'm the pastor. Knowing good well ain't nothing about you is traditional at all. It's nothing about you traditional. So don't try to conform to something and change who you are for the sake of just saying I have a title or I'm the pastor. So knowing the climate of the church. And I think oftentimes we deal with those pastors who are non-traditional trying to go in traditional settings. But I also want to offer suggestions to some of you who are traditional in your thinking and in your ideology and your methods. Be careful going into a non-tradition or a truly progressive ministry, because you can do damage. And I think I know that was one of the areas I knew that wasn't me, and I tried to be something that I was not. And here is the danger, Pastor. Here is the danger, or future pastor. If you watching this broadcast, hey, listen. You can hurt the people, but also you begin to damage yourself as well, because now you're wounded. Now you're frustrated. Now you're upset because you are non-traditional and then you go into a traditional setting, then you want to change these people overnight. And that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Wherever there's change, yes, there are some instantaneous deliverance and transformation, but then there are some changes that takes time. It's a process. It's a process. Whenever you begin to look at the Bible, I'm not trying to preach, but when you look at the Bible, you look at Job. I tell people all the time, we have the benefit. Yes, as Scott Kilborn, it then causes bitterness and isolation. Yes, you can become bitter, and your bitterness, it flows into the people that you lead. Always know this, Pastor, your church will take on the characteristics of its pastor. The church will take on the characteristics of its pastor. If you mean, if you angry, if you bitter, then you're going to have some mean and angry, bitter folk around you. So get back to my point. Thank you so much for that comment. But get back to my point as I'm getting ready to close. That's number 2. All right. Dealing with Job. Job was a part of, he was in the process. See, I tell people all the time, we as the people, we have the benefit of knowing that chapter 42 is coming. Think about Job in this situation. He had no clue when chapter 42 was coming. But he held true to the process. We got to learn to be faithful to the process. And various things happened to Job in the process. He lost family. He lost his livestock. His body, he began to get sick. There's a transformation on the outside with Job. But the shout really in Job is that because yet there was a visible transformation of what they saw, but he didn't let what they saw change what was in his heart. Yes, he didn't let what the people saw change what was in his heart, because he held true to what he heard God say. Though he slay me, yet will I trust him. See, that's the convictions of a person who has a pure heart. So Job was committed to the process. And then the Bible says that he didn't get double for his trouble until in the previous verses before that he prayed for his enemies. So knowing this, and I know I kind of got off on a tangent a little bit, but traditional versus non-traditional. Know this, that knowing the situation before you get into it. Do your research. Make sure you're led by God. Be called by God and not sent by people. Be called by God and not sent by people. All right, so I'm getting ready to get up out of here. So listen, I pray that you would share this broadcast with your people you know. Listen, I got 7 mistakes that I've made as pastor. I'm going to be real. I'm going to be transparent with you. I'm going to say what a lot of my friends that, my close friends that really know me, they call me the Bernie Mac of preaching. I'm just going to say what you really been thinking, but you just may not have the courage to say, I'm going to talk about it, because it's most pastors don't want to admit that whether it be your first church or the church you're pastoring now, that you know God didn't call you there. You just wanted to go because you just wanted to chase a title. You wanted to, fulfill your own selfish desires. And we got to be honest with that. Some of the stuff that we get into is because of our own selfish desires. So I want to, my prayer is in this broadcast that you will be encouraged by this. That, hey, if you made this mistake, get it right. Get it right. Go before God. Repent before God. Before it's too late. I'm telling you, you can ruin yourself and you can ruin the church you're at if you're not real with who you are and you repent before God. So listen, this your boy. I pray, listen, give me some hearts. If this broadcast has truly blessed you, give me some hearts. But I do want you to share this with all of your pastoring friends. I'm just being real. I ain't trying to be deep. There's not going to be no deep theological session. We're not gonna be no doctrinal session. It is gonna be real principles that I can share with you, that the mistakes I've made as pastor. So again, this your boy Pastor D. Get ready out of here, and remember, whatever else you do in life, if you know Jesus Christ, go around shouting, "I believe." Peace.